Can I ask our fantastic media owner representatives from Sub TV, the Student Room, BAM and the Beams Group to join us at the stage. So again, similar format to the last session, we're going to ask everybody just to very briefly introduce themselves. Grab a pew.
Nice to meet you. Lucky boy.
So you're challenged to start in about 15 seconds. Can you give us who you are and where you're from?
Introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm William. I work at studentbeans.com. I've been there for about 4 years now, and before that worked for a youth leadership organisation called ISEC. Student Beans is a university kind of lifestyle site for students, just kind of reaching around 2 million visits a month. And we create content that students like to consume, and we help brands do the same.
Yeah, hi, my name is Peter Miles, work for a company called Sub TV. We've established a media marketing business mainly focused on the student population in the UK. Started in 2003 with, we built a media based on sort of large screens in social high dwell time areas. It's sort of extended into a whole range of marketing services. So we do our best to help brands communicate with this audience.
Hi, I'm Tim Bodnam from BAM. Our store's just behind you there. We've been connecting student brands with the university student market for 15 years. We collate student-focused media from across all the universities in the UK and allow brands to expose themselves directly into the universities.
And hi, I'm Jason Gill. I'm the Managing Director of the Student Room. We're a great big online youth community of just over 1.1 million members between the ages of 14 and 23, 24. Online talking about a whole host of things, education, revision, relationships, health. We've been going for about 13 years, based down in Brighton with a great team of about 42 people. And yeah, great to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, guys. So you really do present us with, some fantastic experience, and I'm sure you can give us some great insights into the world of media ownership. So I'm going to start the questions actually just by saying, from your experience, what role do media owners play in the creation of a really fantastic marketing campaign?
Starting with me?
Anyone.
I'll start. So I think media owners have quite a big kind of responsibility in kind of working with their advertisers and of course the agencies in delivering and activating the campaigns that we work on. It's our day job. We spend all day kind of working on campaigns, and particularly as Student Beans, being a youth brand itself. We spend our time creating content that kind of engages our audience. So I think we have a responsibility to work kind of with brands in saying that this is the content, this is kind of what works, and help be a part of that. And at the same time, kind of respecting that it's their brand and their campaign to kind of shape, but using the information and insight that we gain from having so much direct access to the audience, and kind of help kind of show what works.
Okay, from our perspective, it sort of breaks down into two distinct areas, really, because we have a national sales team who sells directly to media agencies. So a good proportion of our work will come in with campaigns that already exist. So it'll be large brands that have a campaign. A lot of stuff might be on TV. They've got an advert and they want to show it to this audience and engage with it. So to a certain extent, our involvement in that is not really much more than facilitating that broadcast opportunity. There's the other side, the potentially more interesting side or more challenging, where you have a brand or an agency who have a particular campaign. They want to know how they can actually extend that, or they can make that more effective for this particular audience. So that then comes down to the experience you've got, the connections, the contacts, your ideas, and it all starts to come back to the idea. It all starts with a good idea, really. If you either take a campaign that someone's got and you give them a good spin on it, how that might work in that community, or they come with a great idea, then it's about actually delivering on that particular good idea. So that's where we sit.
And Peter, just to kind of probe you a little bit on that, have you ever been in a position where you've had a brand that's come with an idea that you've wanted to challenge, or is that not part of a dialogue that you like to have?
Right, okay. Yeah. I've lived the experience of this, really. About 6 years ago, we did have exactly that. A large brand came with an idea that clearly, even with our limited knowledge at that time, 6 years ago, and we said, I don't think that'll work. But we were desperate to get a lot of people using the medium. I made a mistake. I took the campaign. It actually didn't work because it's an activation-based campaign based on texting. The client wanted to put a number on the screens that the students then sent their number to, and that they were going to call the student back and try to offer them a load of SMS packaging. And basically, we realised it wasn't going to work. But actually, we conducted a load of research that showed before and after on awareness, and it showed that actually the awareness of the ad was quite high. So I thought I had best of both worlds. So I went back to the client and said, look, don't want to be smart or anything, but I told you your campaign wasn't going to work. It hasn't worked. I think they got one phone callback or something. But look, your awareness is great. So the media's fantastic. Your campaign was wrong. But no, they said, no, your media doesn't work. We won't use you again. It took us 5 years to get them back on. So that was a mistake. And so now, if we think it's a very bad idea, we'll tell them, and we won't take it if we don't think it's going to work. It's not good for them, and it isn't good for us.
Okay.
And from our point of view, we're sort of in a unique position because we're not media owners as such ourselves. We represent the actual student organisation's media. I think Lucy best detailed in her speech about how getting on site at the universities allows you to connect directly with the students. And for us, it's more about you actually being part of the student experience and being involved instead of actually interrupting it by just submitting your brand across the actual channels.
So a couple of thoughts running through my mind. I kind of offer an external perspective because I only joined the student room 8 months ago from the travel industry. I think one of the things the travel industry tends to do quite well is they really understand customers very well, whether you look at the leisure or the business travel sector. And I think for me, it's about media owners and our customers, whether it be in education or in the consumer market generally, working together to really get under the skin of what the youth market is thinking, because as I think we've already recognised this morning, it changes so much. And even within our site, between 14 and 22, there are very differing opinions between even age groups within that youth market that we serve. So that for me is one thought. And the other thought that I offer is, and I'm working on internally because it's as much to do with around how we, as the media owner, work with our customers. We're hugely underutilised. We've had relationships both in the education and the consumer sector now for over 6 or 7 years. We've been going for 13. But we've always worked on an advertising basis. You know, that's the core of what we've always done with our customers, which is fine, and it's a thread of what we do to build awareness. But I think if you look at what the Student Room and other companies offer in this space, it's rich with the opportunity to engage directly with students, to be able to talk directly to students pre, mid and post campaign, which is massively important. The data that's available generally in our environment is richer than it ever has been, but it's hugely underutilised. So I think that there needs to be a connection between us together to work out how we can make the most of what we've got. So,
how would you like to see data being better utilised by brands then? How would that look differently?
Sorry.
That's kind of back at you.
I think the first part is how we actually capture information, and then being very clear about how we can use it. And it sounds like a very basic point, but I think media companies are having to shift and adapt to the way they capture data. I don't think we've always recognised the importance of it. I think we do now. Yeah. So I think we're all very quickly looking at ways in which we bring the data in-house, and then working with customers to actually utilise that information, you know, within the realms of legality, obviously.
And to extract meaning and insights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's open questions to the floor then. Who's got a question for the panel? Hands up. It's called Grill the Media Owners, so we need a bit of grilling.
Slightly underdone.
Okay, we've got a question down the front, please. Thank you. Can you just hang on till we get the microphone? Just 1 second, please.
Hopefully this applies to all of the panels, so I'd like an answer from all of them. What were your challenges in growing your user population, and how did you do it?
Can I? Sorry, I'm rabbiting on. Do you want
No,
to go first?
go ahead.
It's an interesting one. So I offer a perspective based on what I've learned in the last 8 months. If you talk to the founders of the Student Room, of which are all still proactively involved in the business, they would claim that it would be impossible to do it now. And by that I mean the Student Room was allowed to grow organically in its first 6 years in a way that a business would never allow. Organically, absolutely power to the student community to moderate themselves. There wasn't a huge amount of business interaction with the community at that point, which allowed it to grow in the first place. So I think that the challenge is trying to recreate that in a business environment with the commercial pressures that exist in running a business as well, and with the technology that is now available to us. I think that's
Okay,
my point.
thank you.
But for us, obviously, we represent university and student organisations and the university, so that the users are there, they're already at university, they're there studying, that's their purpose there. I suppose our challenge is for us is to try and make sure that when a brand books onto the university campus, that we can pre-promote and actually get the message of what that brand's experience is going to be, how you're going to engage with the students. And that can be done through multiple channels because the universities and the actual organisation themselves have got a lot of their own marketing channels, their own social feeds that can actually drum up the trade. And again, working with brand ambassadors approach to actually maximise the whole reach. And as you said, pre-promotion beforehand with the channels such as yours. It's about working all together to get a cross-brand promotion going across it.
And how easy is it to get consistency across all those channels if that's something that, you know, young people are increasingly looking for?
It's very hard to get consistency across channels. Also, to get consistency across the actual locations at universities because they all act completely differently and they all have different strengths and weaknesses. But the fact is that the students are there, and as we've seen some of the conversations today, they are diverse. They shouldn't be stereotyped and boxed into any single kind of little prerequisite of what you think students are. Mm-hmm. They are there and they are looking for brands just like anybody else, but they are a demographic that is a young youth market. They're all in one place though, they're at university, they're studying. So it's a great way to get straight to the source.
Okay.
In direct answer to your question, we actually took our media to the users. So in fact, the whole commercial impetus behind the beginning of SubTV was about there was a lack of a national media in the UK that was allow sort of agencies and advertisers to easily and consistently book campaigns onto. So that was the whole reason that we wanted to actually achieve that. And the reason that there wasn't is because it is an incredibly fragmented and difficult market to operate in. And it's very difficult to find overarching organisations that can give you that reach in one hit. So we took the screens, we took the media to the social areas, and that's where we started to actually attain the kind of community, the sort of users, the audience that we could then actually try and get brands interested in communicating with. It's grown since then, but that was the whole kind of reason we started it that way, if you like.
Thanks for your question. User acquisition and driving kind of student engagement is really kind of our thing, so I'm quite pleased to have this question. We have about kind of 40,000 new students signing up for our site kind of every month, and whether it's for ourselves or kind of our partners, I know kind of Target Jobs are in the room, and we do a lot of work with them, kind of driving kind of registrations for them. It really comes down to offering value and being useful for the user. There was a great article I recently read in the Harvard Business Review, the title of which was "Stop Selling Ads and Do Something Useful." And it was written by, the kind of opening line of the article was, "I'm the guy that invented the banner ad. My children tell me that's like inventing smallpox." And as I say, the headline of the article was "Stop Selling Ads and Do Something Useful." The closing kind of thought that I had after finishing reading the article was "Stop buying ads and do something useful." And the reason people sign up to our site and the reason people, we're able to help kind of partners and engage our users to sign up for kind of other people's products, services, opportunities is because there's some value there. And it's all about kind of being useful to the consumer.
Fantastic. So can we have some questions from the floor? We've got a couple, lots now actually.
Hi, it's Sam from Skadoosh. We've talked about how you target youth within university, but that's a percentage of the youth market. How do you reach out to the other youth market, which clearly is a consumer demographic that marketers want to reach out to as well?
Okay.
Well, okay, I'll tell you how we're looking at that kind of thing. Certainly with a new area that's developed over the last few years is this kind of branded content. It's all about, as William's saying, it's about a value exchange in a lot of these things, whether it be a mobile campaign or whether it be any kind of face-to-face campaign or whatever. There needs to be a value exchange between your audience and the campaign you're bringing. So that can be fun, that can be some prize, that can be something, but there has to be some value exchange. And part of that is some of the branded content stuff that we're doing is about creating some good content that's entertaining to watch, and therefore we can begin that, we can seed that process through the media that's in the student market, and therefore you can adapt it and you can develop it in there. And then, because of all the media opportunities that exist, the distribution networks that are out there, if you've got content, it's relevant to wherever it goes. So as long as the brand's message, the brand's communication is in the DNA of the content, you can seed it in the student market, you can develop it there, but then you can then distribute it through any kind of. A lot of our stuff is distributed on YouTube, for instance. That's a massive thing now. Facebook pages, all that stuff. You can then take your content through and distribute it to a wider youth audience. And there's the other point someone made earlier on. Youth isn't necessarily just about, I would say it, wouldn't I? But youth isn't merely about 18 to 24-year-olds or even to 30-year-olds. To a certain extent, it's a state of mind as well.
Yeah. From our point of view, we specialise in the student market. We don't call ourselves a youth advertising agency. We just specialise in student media, so we can't really go much further than that.
With us, it's the other way. I mean, we're called the Student Room, so I think the assumption, therefore, is that it's primarily about education. It's not just about education. In fact, it's probably like a 60-40 split the other way. But content's critical, so I agree with that. And I think what's actually fairly unknown is that the key to success around all of this online is around stimulating content and your ability as marketeers to influence the content that's going on in and around the brand, your brand and the sector. And one of the ways in which you do that is by creating conversation, engaging with students, creating conversation online, and an environment like the Student Room, and there are others out there as well, is the ability to create that content that's picked up by natural search or search engines. And if you think about, most of you will have interacted with forums out there that you had no idea existed by virtue of the fact that you put a question into Google, for example, and actually around 60% of our traffic finds the Student Room in the first place because of that, because there's so much conversation going on around brands and just generally people are finding us that way. So I think creating content's critical and your ability to influence it is big.
So if that's kind of a key challenge in kind of content creation, if I'm a young person being bombarded with all this content, how can you help me as a brand to create the content that's the most valuable?
And I think this is where for me, the magic of the internet when it first started was the ability to connect people that didn't know each other, that had mutual interest or had knowledge that they could exchange to improve their position. And I think that with this situation, we have the magic of the internet still existing in an anonymous environment at times. The question was?
So it's around content creation. So if our young, as a young consumer, you're being bombarded with lots of content.
Yeah, and this is the thing, they're having conversations, they're having peer-to-peer conversations where most people get the most value from peer-to-peer conversations. Okay. They're actually able to make choices about the conversations they enter into. To the point earlier around registrations, we're focused on registrations, but one of the things that we've only really begun to talk about just recently is the power of, and I need to find a better term for it, but generally known as lurkers, people that come online but don't actually register. Around 70% of people on the Student Room are doing that. They're not actually registered, so we've got 1.5 million people registered, but a bunch of people that have chosen not to register. So our goal is to get them to register, obviously, but they're actually reading content all of the time and making decisions and informing themselves about what they may or may not do as a result, whether that's choose a university, buy this mobile or this mobile. There's a huge amount of information being stored off the back of reading the content. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, another question, please. We had a few hands up at the back of the room a moment ago. Okay, we've got some more coming up.
Hi, Jackie from the Beans Group. As media owners, what keeps you guys up at night?
Tim?
I'm not up at night. I get good sleep, apart from my daughters that wake up and keep me up that way. No, nothing keeps you up at night. I suppose something that sort of connects to what you said. What we're getting here is people trying to work out how to get the most out of the youth market and get the students or the youth buying their products. What we see in the history of BAM, with dealing with actual clients and major brands going to universities, is that they don't maximise the opportunity. This is general marketing. They go there, they don't check in on what the staff are doing when they visit. They don't have an actual goal or a focus of what they're trying to achieve. And I think it was mentioned earlier about making sure what is your brand trying to address what is your key factor, what makes you different from anybody else. You'll go into students, which are, there's some stereotypes you can say, is that they are early adopters, that they're trendsetters, they have a tribe community and the Generation Y. And that makes them really acceptable for listening. I know we've spoken, numerous people said about that they've got the bullshit detectors on, much higher than everybody else. That is true, but they're also very acceptable for listening if you are engaged and you are completely authentic. This is all true. Just making sure you go there and understand why you're going there and go and talk to them. Actually, just interact. Sorry, that was slightly off for your question.
Yeah, after you.
What keeps me up at night? I think the youth market is often seen as they're so kind of fast moving. The trends can evolve and move kind of so quickly. They certainly kind of do evolve. I don't think it's as quickly as a lot of people kind of think. But to be honest, it's about thinking, what's going to be next? What's kind of the next innovation? I think looking at the youth space, I think there's been a lot of consistency in the market and kind of with media owners focused on young people for kind of a long time. And it's thinking about kind of how can we push the barriers? How can we push the boundaries? How can we do something kind of new and kind of innovate? And recently at a big event at the Guardian, and it was for years, going to events and people talking about, it's going to be the year of the mobile, it's going to be the year of the mobile. Suddenly I found myself at this event and people were talking about a post-mobile world that we live in. And I thought, wow, kind of, that kind of came and went. And it's thinking about, okay, what's going to be that next kind of platform and opportunity. And suddenly going from all these screens you'd have seen in all these software as a service websites of your mobile, your tablet and your desktop, all these presentations being shown, mobile, tablet, desktop, TV. And I'm convinced that we'll be building TV apps before we know it. And 4G is around the corner, and there's going to be a lot of kind of exciting innovation to come. So what's next is often what keeps me up.
Well, you've given me enough to keep me up now. It's part of, I'm a bit like Tim, we're a little bit, been around for a while. So the standard stuff about running a company probably keeps you up, but from an exciting what's in the market, what do you think is stuff that's going to be developing and trending over the next 3 to 5 years, and how can we be involved in that exciting? I think it's the branded content side. I think it's the development of exciting stuff and content that you can then take to a wider youth market and a wider market in general. I think that's the idea. We're working with a few potential brands, and so thinking about the ideas and how that can be angled is probably the only thing that keeps me mildly awake past 9 o'clock. But not much really, apart from Chelsea losing.
It's like therapy. Yeah, I mean...
Chelsea losing.
Well, no, I'm fine with that, Spurs fan. For me, running a business, I think, obviously, tends to keep you up over most nights. But I think on top of that, the point around underutilisation is a big focus for me. I think the challenges of writing that are quite big in terms of getting a business geared up for that, getting the right people in. It's one thing saying that we're underutilised as a business, but there's another thing actually then making sure that we've got everybody internally understanding that and then being able to sit down with you as marketeers, as businesses, to actually help you decipher what it is that we do beyond running a community and how you can get the most out of it. So I think kind of aligning that all together and making us fully utilised is what keeps me going.
Just thought it did occur to me, what might not keep me awake at night, but does keep me somewhat animated, is that whole student-youth kind of division that we had earlier on. We've spent a long time trying to talk to media agencies about the fact that the students are youth and that some of the youth are students. In fact, 43% of 18 to 24-year-olds are in full-time education, despite the fact Labour were trying to get that to 50. It may well go down, but it's somewhere around that. So a good chunk of your 18 to 24-year-olds are spending 3 years of their lives minimum on campus and around this area. So that's the idea. We've even got, it's occurred to me, because I found out even now, after 7 or 8 years of constantly going on about, it's not just about student briefs, this is about youth, we're still getting people coming back and going, well, we haven't had anything with student written on it. When our clients send us campaigns, it doesn't say student. It might say 18 to 24-year-olds, but because it doesn't specifically say student, we didn't think about you. And you're kind of going, how much are you paid to do that job? Because that's embarrassing, really. Anyway.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've literally sat in a meeting with a big high street restaurant brand, I won't mention them, and they said, oh, our target market isn't students, we don't target students. I go, who is your target audience? 18 to 24s. It's like, yeah, the majority, the biggest pool of those happen to be students.
Okay. So we have one final question for each of you. So in 30 seconds, I want each of you to tell me what the future looks like for your organisations.
Great.
Just a small challenge before lunch.
Start with me again.
Anyone.
You're looking at me. So
in 30 seconds or less, tell me what the future looks like.
what the future looks like for studentbeans.com.
Yes, please.
Right. We have just hit our kind of 2 million kind of visits a month, and kind of rapidly growing. We're recruiting. We've kind of got about 10, 12 kind of roles that we're recruiting for, from sales, marketing, finance, developers, kind of across the board. So we're kind of a growing, hungry business. We have a very exciting new product. I'll keep my cards relatively close to my chest, but a big mobile opportunity kind of around the corner. Our kind of national online freshers fair, freshersfields.com, has just been nominated for a Marketing Week Engage Award, and we're looking forward to this year's freshers, where the online fair is going to be kind of bigger and better than it was last year. So
Lovely, thanks.
that's my 30 seconds.
Thank you. Just over, you're fine. Peter.
Okay. Well, I've kind of intimated it already. From media sales side, it's actually been quite good for us the last 2 years. But I think rather than just selling pure advertising, as well as selling, I don't want to discourage anyone from buying pure advertising, as well as selling pure advertising, I think there's going to be a greater move towards branded content. We're in a great position to be able to work in a really great community with the audience who are prepared to look at good content. So that's quite exciting, and there's a few things on there. There's another part of our business which takes the proprietary software that we developed to distribute our channel to the estate, which we're now selling as a packaged product. So it's digital signage stuff, and that's quite exciting. So I'm hoping that in 3 years' time that's starting to contribute positively towards the bottom line of the business. So
Excellent. Thank you.
For BAM, well, twofold. Internally, we're focusing heavily on engagement within our company. We've set ourselves the vision by 2017 to be ranked as one of the Sunday Times best companies to work for, which is a challenge for us for the size we are and in the sector we're in. But that's something we're all striving as a company to work to together. Externally, we're focusing on being experts within our field of university student-focused media and analysing the data of actually how good each individual university is. So it's, again, a lot of weighting and measuring is going to come in. Maybe something from us you'll start seeing a bit more like an eBay kind of scoring and rating the actual media, and being able to see what other clients have experienced, the good, the bad and the ugly. So it's a lot more research. And a blatant little plug: if you hand your business card into our stall, our prize basically for anybody here is that we'll do a survey with over 1,000 students for you on questions that you want, and it will just be purely your survey. It's not on the back of anything that we're doing. So we'll go over at least 5 universities for you on your questions. All you need to do, pop your business card in. Thank you.
Just at the back of the room.
plug.
Good plug, thanks.
Our focus
Jason.
is about getting everybody in our demographic to be using us. We've done a lot of work to get up to where we are now, 1.1 million people using the site as registered users, a bunch of people that don't register. We believe that everybody should be using us because the people that do use it get massive value out of it on some really serious issues at times. So the value that we give to our community, we want everybody to experience that. So growing our community. And then on the other side of that, building the overall awareness publicly around what we do, because I think for the size of website that we are, with 6 and a bit million unique site visits a month, I'm staggered as to how many people still don't know about us. So the big challenge is to have universal understanding, especially in the UK, around who we are. So if there were people here not knowing who the Student Room are today, my challenge is to make sure that this time next year we all know what it's all about. So that's the focus.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.